Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. My name is Alice Chance and I am Head of Student Operations over at Command Shift. Today we have a lunch and learn session with the team over at Credera. They're going to be talking through their current hiring needs, their graduate scheme, and we're going to be hearing from two of the students who have previously partaken in that, and then we're going to have a Q&A at the end. So I will hand it over to you, Christian.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Alison. It's
no problem.
Absolutely great to be here and great talking to everyone. So I'll do a quick intro. As Al said, my name is Christian. I'm the recruitment manager here at Credera for our early years hiring. So for us, that is graduates, apprentices, and interns. This is our third concurrent year of having an early years program, and what has very quickly become a really core part of the business. So we'll sort of focus on some very specific roles today, but for us in 2023, this is going to account for 64 hires, which is probably around a third of our total hiring. So really core to how we kind of shape and model the business moving forward. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the engineering graduate scheme in particular here. So kind of go on to some more details in a little bit around scheme itself, process of applying, and sort of what to expect. As Alice said, we're joined by Brenda and Gabriel, who are part of our engineering team, joined us originally as graduates, and will kind of be around for any Q&A, but also to talk through some aspects of daily life and what to expect once you're here as well. So I'll pass you over to them now just to give a quick introduction, and starting with Brenda. Brenda, over to you.
Hey everybody, so I'm Brenda, and as Christian mentioned, I was one of the graduates for cohort B in 2021. Just want to give you guys some background on myself, just a brief summary. So I am South African, and I studied chemical engineering, so I don't come from a tech background. If you had to ask me a year or so ago, what the cloud was, I would not be able to tell you, but that's why I joined the grad scheme. So I joined in October 2021, and it was a vibe. It was great. And at the moment, a year and a half later, I am a full stack developer for Credera. So I've decided to go that route in technology. I'm London-based. However, I live on a farm, and it's just a fun fact, but I think it also ties into the fact that Credera does allow for flexible working, which is why I get to live on a farm with a lot of chickens. It's great. But yeah, just some brief information about myself. I'll be chatting to you guys about my experience throughout the grad program and a little bit about my client experience, but only towards the end of the session. So yeah, I'm going to hand over to Gabriel for his introduction.
Hey, so I'm Gabriel. I did a Bachelor in Computer Science degree in Lancaster University. And then I joined the graduate scheme same time as Brenda did in October 2021. I'm Manchester-based, and I do not live on a farm. On the theme of flexible work, currently I'm working at home, I'd say about 95% of the time, so that's fun. I'll hand it over back to Christian.
Great, thanks both. I have no comments on farms or living on them, but no, appreciate the introductions. So just taking almost a step back in terms of Credera, really, not really covered who we are and why we're talking to you, I suppose. So Credera is a boutique consulting firm. Consulting being a really broad word, and I'll try and go into some of the depths of the specifics of what we do and who we work with. But there's just some key facts I would probably pick out from this slide. Won't go through all of them. The first of which is that we've been around for a long time. So 30 years since the company was originally founded. And really for us in the UK, sort of the last 5-6 years are where we've seen the vast majority of our growth. Even more recently, sort of the last 3 years being really prominent. around the time I joined, actually. It's funny that. And there's been two real core focuses for us. So our core managing consulting, which is where the firm started. And then, like I said, about 3 years ago, our engineering team. So that is a major focus for us as a business. When I joined, we had, I think, 4 engineers, and they did this almost as, sort of a side to their daily work. We're expecting to hit 100 at some point in 2023. So really strong growth through what has been 3 economically very difficult years. And the reason I'm sort of highlighting this is this middle section around our sort of values and what we do. These resonate with the people that we work with. So if you were to ask anybody, about Credera, they would talk about the people focus and the people they work with, and enjoying those a lot. We also do great work, and I think Gabriel later is going to talk about some of the breakdown of how that works, which would be really interesting, and go into a bit more depth about it. It just gives you a flavor for sort of who we are and what we do. Some industries on the right. This expands so frequently, to be honest. We have the core there of public sector, utilities, energy, and financial services. Insurance and consumer are relatively new, and 2023. While I can't go into too much depth on it, I know there's a lot of other things coming in terms of new companies that we're working with, new industries, really. Only other things I would pick out is we do have a global presence now. So we have 4 offices in the UK: London, Leeds, Manchester, and Newcastle, with Newcastle being opened very recently. We do also have an overseas presence, so a whole suite of offices in the US, but also in Australia, and some other planned offices in the future across Europe as well. So exciting times. In terms of what I was saying before, what we do in consulting being fairly broad, again, this is a snapshot really in terms of those different elements. So engineering on the right of the screen over there, but strategy, transformation, cloud, and data also being really big parts. And as you expect, there's a lot of crossover here. So these teams work together. It's not like they're siloed in terms of what they'll be doing. So as you'd expect, engineering, cloud, and data anyway, there's a lot of crossover where we have cloud engineers and data engineers, but also people who aren't in the engineering teams who are working on those as well. So when we go to work on a client project, they're very cross-functional. You can be working with 2 other engineers and some business analysts. It could be any real arrangement. And again, this is something we'll kind of cover off in a bit more depth in a little bit. How this relates to the grad scheme then. So for us, the graduate scheme, like I said, is a really core element of how we grow the business, and a really exciting one as well. And I think quite unique in the industry. Certainly from I'm biased, but from my opinion, quite unique in the industry. So you'd start off with a training program and feel, it can feel overkill whether you're coming out of any sort of higher education or previous training program to go through another one. But there is a reason behind that. So it's focused on technical and non-technical skills, with the idea being that after that training period, you're ready to go. You're ready to go on to client projects straight away and just get stuck in. You'll never stop learning, but you'll get up to speed very quickly and progress very quickly. I'm sure Brenda and Gabriel can tell you about that from personal experience. They've been here since, like I said, 2021, and they've progressed massively. So I think it works. Middle point here, this kind of goes for the whole business around certifications and upskilling. So yes, you'll have the training period, but you'll also have continuous opportunities to learn and develop throughout your whole career here. This goes for the whole business. It's worth saying, so everyone has a training budget. Engineering is a bit different, and I'll come on to this, in that you get a bit extra time to work on personal development, but it's a big focus for us. And lastly, there's a lot going on internally, as you might expect. So it's not just 100% client work. There are opportunities to get involved with things that are a little bit different to the everyday work that you might be doing. Whether this is kind of in tandem with learning a new skill and wanting to get upskilled without the sort of pressures of a a live client project, whether it's a passion project, something to do with CSR, anything that you might be interested in, chances are there's an opportunity to go and do that through one of these channels, really. I'll sort of just kind of briefly pause on this. There's a few bits and pieces here that are worth reading through. Kind of covered off the offices there in terms of where we're based. For engineering, we have a northern focus. So our London intake is slightly different, and the focus is for the northern offices. Now, what I will say on this, and again, I'm kind of looking to Brenda here, is that you're not locked into a location. We are flexible. So these are, I would treat them as training bases. So we have engineering training running in Leeds, Manchester, and Newcastle in 2023. But you're by no means tied down. So if you were wanting to move between the offices or cities, move further afield in the UK and be remote, we're flexible around that. So not a hard requirement. And just a few other bits and pieces on what we look for. I think for me as the recruitment manager, it is certainly about coding ability to an extent, but we're really interested in who you are and what you're like to work with and how you fit into the team. The culture that we've really carefully built. It's low ego, it's down to earth. People get along with each other without having the sort of politics, and that's what we want to see. So we do have some requirements in there in terms of coming from some element of a training background already, the ability to code. We can pick that up as well. That's why we have the training, but we want to hire people who are, I guess, low ego and pleasant to work with. That's what I think in my mind we look for. I mentioned before I'd come back onto parts around the training, and this is, I guess, where I suppose I put my sales hat on a little bit. I think that top point for me is the biggest one. You have 1 day a week, 20% of your time is spent around personal development, and that's pretty unique in the industry. So that's time you're not doing client work, and this is anything else really. So it could be learning a new skill, cracking on with some certifications, helping out with other interviews and getting involved in the recruitment process, internal projects, something else altogether. So that's a really strong offering. I won't go through each and every one of these, and I would probably say that the 25 days holiday does go up to 30, which I probably should have put in the slide. Things like this, if there's any questions now or in the future, happy to run through these as well. And then just a very quick slide on the details of the intakes for us. So as I mentioned, there are the northern intakes. So 20 positions. We have a Manchester one with 8 people and a Newcastle and Leeds, where the split is 4 in Newcastle and 8 in Leeds. So I'll just quickly pause there. But I think from my perspective, it's just the process to run through. So really straightforward. After the point of application, and I'll pop this into the comments, I think is probably the best way for me to pop a couple of links in there. I can certainly share these afterwards. Every single application is read by a person, digested by a person, and time is spent on it. And if somebody has the ability to code, we'll put them through the process. The idea of this scheme is to be really open to anyone and everyone from kind of different backgrounds. So if you do apply, then you can expect to hear back from us probably quicker than you might expect. As the first stage would be a technical test. I think that at last counting, there's 20 different language options for this, so really broad, and there is a time limit that is pretty high. So again, we're focused around almost the after result. So once you've passed the coding test, we're then more interested in what happens in the interview. So the second stage interview is sort of a code review session. So talking through what you've done, why you've done it, and would you do anything differently if you were to look at it again? For us, that's more important than sort of raw coding ability. And are you able to kind of critically look back at your code and, talk through this, be open to suggestions from the team in terms of other approaches you might make as well, really. After those 2 rounds there, we would look to progress to an offer. So the whole interview process, so that second round is a 90-minute interview. So the whole interview process itself is not too intensive. Not going to take you hours and hours, and this is something that we'll do over video calls as well. And like I said, that was it from me. So I'm going to hand you back to Gabriel. Like I said, any further details needed, anything like that, before or after this session, please just get in touch.
Yeah. Yep. So that's the brief on the graduate scheme. After the graduate scheme, we work with clients. So Credera, we are a consultant agency. What that means is that we work with other companies, other clients to work on projects that they gave us, right? Basically, how it works is that some other external companies, they need help, they need resources to build something. They come to us and we work on those resources, right? Is the slide still up? Yep. So here's the team structure. So currently I'm working on a project that is a web application. There are 3 distinct areas in that application. So we've got 3 teams, each team working on one area. In the team that I'm in, we've got a product manager. They are kind of like the leader of the entire team, right? They run meetings, they run demos, they run retro. They help prioritize tasks. They give regular updates to the users, right? And then we've got a business analyst. They are who gathers requirements from the users. What that means is that the users would tell them what they want, and then the business analyst is going to convert those requirements into actions that we need to take or changes that we need to make in the application, right? And then we've got a designer who takes those requirements and create designs. The designer will also talk to the users, right, to validate those designs, to make sure that that's what they wanted. And at the end, we've got the 4 Credera engineers, right? 1 team lead, 3 engineers. We work on the tasks, we review each other's pull requests, and that's our team, right? Next slide, please. So here's what a typical week is like as a junior software engineer. So Monday to Thursday, every day in the morning, we've got 15 minutes of daily stand-up. That's where we give each other some updates on what we are doing, what we are going to work on the rest of the day. If there's anything that we need help with, that's stand-up. And then on Monday and Thursday, we've got backlog refinement. What that is that we get together, we look at some tasks, we make sure that they are ready to be worked on. We check if there are some tasks which we need more information, that's refinement. And then on Wednesday, we've got a bi-weekly demo. That's where we show the users what we've done in the past 2 weeks, some new features or changes that we've made to the application. And we've also got a retrospective, right? So every 2 weeks, we come together as a team. We look back at the last 2 weeks. If there's anything that went well, if there's anything that we should improve, anything that we want to change in the future, right? And of course, on Fridays, we've got engineering time, right? The mentioned 20% time where we get to spend on working on internal projects or preparing for certifications, stuff like that. Yeah, so that's what it's like working with clients at Credera. I'm going to pass to Brenda.
Awesome. Thanks, Gabriel. Right, so just to tell you guys what it was like during the grad program, and just to add a little bit of emphasis on the interview process, best interview I've ever sat. Very much a people first organization. I forgot it was an interview when I sat it. But when we joined the grad program, so it kind of is comprised of a lot of sessions, learning sessions, mostly introducing us to different tech stacks and new concepts. As I've mentioned, I don't have a technology background. When I joined Credera, the only programming that I could do was with Python, and that was because I needed to do that throughout my studies. It was definitely not in the context of designing software. It was actually used for math. So very different use cases. So the sessions were definitely like eye-opening. They focused on introducing things like cloud with the different cloud providers, what are APIs, different programming languages. We did front-end infrastructure and back-end. So it was very interesting. So ultimately, these sessions prepared us for a group project. Obviously, the focus being that we work as a team. And we were 6 grads, so I focused on front end portion of it, and Gabriel was on the back end. I remember it vividly. And ultimately, we had to build a website and present it to the wider Credera community. And it's a great way to introduce us to all of the new concepts. We were also introduced to things like agile ways of working. We did some peer programming sessions, which were really helpful for me. Not knowing how to do peer programming and not being familiar with programming languages like Java. I got to learn from my peers, and also helps you build that rapport. And we also focused on presenting skills, really important to be able to present to the client. And it wasn't just all work and learning sessions. We had a fun hackathon as one of our sessions as well, where we had to build little robots. Can't tell you that they did what they were supposed to, but it was definitely a very fun session to be part of. And towards the end of the grad program, we were, as Gabriel mentioned and talked through, we were put on client. For myself, I was put on a US-based client. So Christian also mentioned that we're global and we have branches in the US and in Australia. So I was privileged enough to work with our US branch on a pharmaceutical client. It was a really cool experience. And it was all full stack. And I will say now I'm on DevOps. So we definitely have different cross-functional projects, and you get a lot of experience in a lot of different avenues. So it keeps you on your toes. It's a lot of fun. Are there any questions?
Great, thank you. That was really informative from everyone. So we do have a couple of people watching live, but I have had some questions sent in as well. But I guess one of them somebody asked me was, what tips would you give for somebody that was in the application process at the moment? Is there anything that you would recommend for people to do, or?
I might take this and then switch over to one of you two for the interview side, if that's okay.
Right.
Like I said, if you've applied when you're at the tech test stage, I would say find somewhere quiet, find somewhere that you're not going to be disturbed. It is a time test, but do your best. We do have a passing mark, but it's probably not as high as you'd expect.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the majority of the assessment we're doing is in the follow-up, and we aren't just taking on the people who score the highest. There's some interesting data I could probably pull out around the breakdown of who would hire and how they scored. Doesn't correlate as you'd expect. So we're focused around the people, and Brenda, maybe over to you in terms of that interview, what we're looking for.
Yeah. So the final interview, I would recommend just be yourself. Because we're very people first and people focused. We want you to just, be open, honest. I was just myself. Bring your quirky sense of humor, have fun, be passionate about what you're doing. Yeah, best advice I could give you for that.
Great, thanks. Gabriel, I don't know if you have anything to add on to that as well. Or?
I would say just try your best to relax. No matter during the coding part or the interview part, try to relax. There's no trick questions. We're just trying to gauge what kind of engineer you want to be.
Great, thank you. And this one's probably more directed towards you, Christian, but when do the applications close for the next intake?
Great question. I mean, there's no real close date. It's when we fill them.
Okay, cool.
And we won't, we'll keep them open until we find the right people. So there's no hard cut-off point there. They do fill up quickly.
Yeah.
That's what I will say.
Yeah, okay. So apply sooner rather than later.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want to miss out. Manchester goes quickest, probably followed by Leeds and then Newcastle, with those being our newer offerings.
Yeah.
The better.
Okay, perfect, cool. They were the questions I had submitted. I don't know if anyone else has any that's watching live. If not, I will end it there, but that was really, really informative. I believe I have the job description already, Christian, but if you wouldn't mind sending it over to me again, just so I've definitely got the right one, and then I'll put that out towards the Command Shift students and alumni. If anyone has any questions, I'm sure they could always reach out to you all if you're all on LinkedIn or...
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. But no, that was really, really great. I really appreciate you joining me today. Super helpful. And hopefully we'll have some Command Shift students joining you in September.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Look forward to seeing the applications.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Cool. It was lovely speaking with you all. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.